Hey guys, what's going on? It's me, Will, and first of all, I hope everybody had a great record store day today. I did go out this morning to my local record store to pick up some records today on Record Store Day, but I'm gonna have to save those for another video because this video is actually gonna be a contest entry for Andy, also known as Cloudy Milder here in YouTube and in the VC. I'll put a link here in the description so you can go ahead and check out Andy's VC channel. Great VC channel, great VC member. I would say if you're into any kind of rock and roll music, you will probably like Cloudy Milder's VC channel. Especially if you're into hard rock and heavy metal, because he's always showing some really cool heavy metal records. So make sure that you go ahead and subscribe to Andy's channel. And Andy's currently having his 300 subscribers contest. Congratulations, Andy, on the milestone. Really well deserved. And for his contest, he's having, or he wants us to answer basically 3 questions that are related to the number 3. 3 very interesting questions. So let's go ahead and check it out. The first question is: show an album from your collection that has the number 3 in the cover. And honestly, I thought this one would be easier because I went through my collection thinking that I would find plenty of records that had the number 3, or at least a reference to the number 3, but I actually only found 2 records in my collection that had the number 3 in it. And I'm gonna save one of those for one of the later questions in his contest. And the one that I picked for this question is this one right here. Of course, you know I'm a huge Green Day fan, and this is the very first album by Green Day. And this one's called 39 Smooth, and it came out on 1991 on Lookout Records. And this is a repress that I picked up a few years ago that came out on Reprise Records, I think. And there's the cover, and you see the 3 right there from 39 Smooth. Great album by Green Day, fast-paced pop punk. Of course, it was a point where Green Day was kind of still defining their style of music, but this record, I think, defines pretty good of what Green Day's sound is all about. Just really good pop punk music. And this record also has one of the best Green Day songs, in my opinion, which is called The Judge's Daughter. Let's go ahead and check it out. Alright, so that was Green Day with The Judge's Daughter out of 39 Smooth, my pick for the album with the 3 in the cover. Alright, let's move on to the second question on Andy's contest, and the question is to show 3 of your favorite third studio albums by a band. And the first one I'm going to show you is The Soviets with LP3. This is the Minneapolis, Minnesota band, punk rock band. This one came out in 2005 on Fat Records. This band released a total of 3 albums, or 3 studio albums in their career. And they very conveniently just titled them LP1, LP2, and the third one is of course called LP3. This is actually the album that I mentioned before that also has the number 3, or a reference to the number 3 in the cover. But I wanted to save it for this question because it's also the 3rd studio album by the Soviets, and it's an excellent studio album by the Soviets. In my opinion, the best in their catalog. A lot of people describe them as the kind of like the punk rock version of the B-52s, if that makes any sense. But it sounds really good with the mix between the male and the female vocals. Really good punk rock album. Make sure that you check it out. So let's actually go ahead and check out a short clip from one of the songs from LP3. This one's called Multiply and Divide. Alright, so that was the Soviets, and now my second pick for my one of my favorite third studio albums by a band. It's an album you've seen me show many times before. Really not much more to say about the Ramones with Rocket to Russia. Third studio album by the Ramones, and it's, in my opinion, their finest work. truly a punk rock classic. Not much to say. You've heard me say everything about this record. This one came out originally in 1977 on Sire Records. So yeah, great third studio album by the Ramones, Rocket to Russia. And finally, my third pick for one of my favorite third studio albums by a band. It's another punk rock classic, in my opinion, Rancid, with And Out Come the Wolves. And this one came out originally in 1995 on Epitaph Records. I do have a copy on vinyl of this record, but it's a picture disc that you can see right there on my wall. It's one of my favorite albums of all time. A fantastic punk rock album by Rancid. Make sure that you check it out. Let's actually go ahead and check out a short clip from one of the best songs from And Out Come the Wolves. The whole album is just filled with really great punk rock songs. But I picked this one. Let's go ahead and check out Roots to Radicals. Alright, and that was Rancid, my third pick out of the second question in Andy's contest for great third studio albums from bands. Alright, let's move on now to the third and final question in Cloudy Milder's contest. And the question is, show albums from bands that are going through or that went through their third lineup when they were releasing that album. So basically, if a band was going through their third band lineup, and they released an album, show 3 of your favorite albums from that lineup. And this one was a little bit more challenging to come up with a response, because you really had to know a little bit of the history of the band before actually making a pick. So I got my 3 picks right here, and the first one is actually one of my favorite bands of all time. It's of course the Pixies. You've heard me talk about the Pixies many times before, and this one's called Head Carrier, their last album that came out just last year in 2016 on Pixies Music, and also one of my favorite albums from 2016. Great band. The Pixies are currently in their third band member lineup. They originally started back in the 80s with Kim Deal on bass, of course. And they broke up back in the 90s, and then they reunited in the early 2000s with Kim Deal, but then she was replaced a few years ago with Kim Shattuck of the Muffs. That didn't work out, and she was replaced by Paz Lenchantin, that is currently the bass player of the Pixies right now. And they're touring right now with Paz Lenchantin on bass, and I'm actually really excited about seeing them in the next few weeks. I'm going to be seeing them live when they come here to Atlanta. Great band. Head Carrier is actually also a great album in my opinion. Again, my pick for a band with that is currently going through a third lineup. Pixies with Head Carrier. All right, the next band or the next record that I'm gonna pick is one that Andy also, or it's a band that Andy also mentioned in his video when he was announcing his 300 subscribers contest. Of course, it's the Ramones. They were going through their third lineup. First they had Tommy Ramone on drums, then he quit and he was replaced with Marky Ramone on drums, and then Marky was let go of the band at least for a while, and then Richie Ramone replaced him, and Richie is right there holding the monkey, and this is the album called Animal Boy. And it came out in 1985 on Sire Records. And like I said, Andy also picked the Ramones, but he picked a different album from the third lineup of the Ramones. He picked Too Tough to Die. My pick is Animal Boy, also a really good Ramones record when they were going through their third lineup. And last but not least, I also wanted to pick Weezer, one of my favorite bands also, with the self-titled album also known as the Green Album. And this one came out back in 2001 on Geffen Records. And actually, I didn't know this about the Weezer, but they initially had a different guitar player back when they just got started. They had a guy named Jason Cropper playing guitar. He was replaced with Brian Bell, of course, the current guitar player of Weezer. And then I think it was back in the early 2000s, they had also a different bass player, a guy named Matt Sharp, and he was replaced with Mikey Welsh, that you can see here in the cover of the Green Album. Mikey Walsh, of course, he sadly passed away. He died back in 2011. He had a lot of mental issues, and I think he also had a really bad health issues as well. He ended up dying when he was, I think, after he got fired basically from Weezer back in the early 2000s. But anyways, great studio album by Weezer, going through their third lineup. A very underrated record, I think. A lot of people don't, or a lot of people dismiss this record as one of not the best Weezer material, which is not. They do have a lot of better albums from when before this album was released, but I still think that this is a very solid record. Lots of really great songs: Photograph, Hashpipe, Island in the Sun, Don't Let Go, Smile. Lots of really great tunes here, so make sure that you check out Weezer with the Green Album. Great band going through, or that they went through their third lineup back when they released this record. But anyways, those are my 3 picks for that question, and all the questions for the three questions that Andy wanted us to answer. Again, congratulations, Andy, on the 300 subscribers. Again, I'll put a link here in the description, so you can go ahead and check out Andy's channel. Thank you for watching, and take care. Bye bye.